Morning guys, and welcome back to I Like Our Watches 2. I woke up this morning with a very strong urge to sit myself down in front of the camera, press record, and then tell you about my day yesterday. I had an awesome day. I'm still buzzing from it, to be perfectly honest, because I had a rare trip away from this room. I went to, are you ready for this? The Christopher Ward Showroom. They're based in the same town where I live. They're literally a walk away. 5-10 minutes when I was there. I've known that they've been in this town, Maidenhead, well, since the beginning, and it's been on my mind to get in touch with them and reach out and pay them a visit and ask if I can borrow a watch. But I just kept putting it off and putting it off. But they reached out to me recently and invited me to the launch of their new watch, the Bel Canto. So I thought, perfect opportunity to, well, contact them back and say I'd love to go to the launch, but don't suppose you got an appointment for me to come down and have a look at some of the other watches and potentially borrow one. And they were, yeah, very accommodating. So in this video, I'm going to show you the watch that I've borrowed, but also want to talk to you a little bit about my visit, because it's something that they offer in Maidenhead. And I know people in the UK do travel a little bit to come and see their watches because they are well worth travelling to come and see. They've obviously got a fantastic portfolio. Their watches are very well respected, and well, I think you can only really see them in Maidenhead. So, you know, if you want one and you want to see it, you've got to come to Maidenhead. But a lot of people outside of this sort of area and outside of the UK are not going to have that opportunity, are they? So I thought I'd share my experience with you. It was a pretty awesome day. So the booking I had was a half an hour booking. It was at 3 o'clock, so I just wandered down, got there around 5 to 3. The building is beautiful. It's a double-fronted flint and brick, sort of Victorian building. Really nice and symmetrical. Looks like it's had, well, it looks like it's been modernised on the inside, but the outside beautifully maintained. Really nice, bright yellow door. You can't miss it. Little balcony as well above the front door, which is pretty cool. Just a beautiful building. And I went inside. Yeah, very modern inside. It really does look like it should be a home, although it's right in the centre of town, so I don't suspect it ever was someone's home, but it's just got that feeling of a very grand sort of Victorian house. Anyway, the showroom is basically the front room. As you walk in, you just turn left immediately, and there's a rather large room with lots of watch boxes and watches on display, a table and chairs for you to sit down and have a sort of formal meeting. But then they've got a sort of casual couch with a large coffee table and all the watches spread out. Of course, they offered teas and coffees and refreshments. And then I sat down with a gentleman called Patrick and a colleague of his. I wish I'd remembered his name, and my apologies. I will get his name. But interestingly, Patrick's colleague went to a watch fair in Chicago and saw an Exciton 2. A customer of James's and mine was at the same watch fair and happened to show it to this gentleman. And when I walked in with my Exciton 2 on my wrist, he recognised it. What a small world. Honestly, I just couldn't believe it. I wore it intentionally. Obviously, I'm very proud of the watch that James and I created. But yeah, can you believe it? What an incredibly small world. So anyway, we just sat down, and for half an hour or so we chatted about watches and watch reviews, and all of their watches were laid out, and so I had a good fiddle. There's one thing that stood out to me actually. They've made a concept watch, and they made 100 or 200 of them. I think they're all sold out, and they've put in an in-house caliber movement inside it, an in-house movement basically, with a 5-day power reserve, and it's a sort of skeletonized, I think it's called the C60 concept. So Google that and you'll see it. And if you Google Christopher Ward Maidenhead, you'll see the building as well that I was talking about. But yeah, the one thing I took away to some degree from that meeting was the Bezel Action. I know. I know. What is it with me and Bezel Actions? Honestly, I picked up this concept watch. I had a little mini orgasm, I'm not going to lie. The Bezel Action was like nothing else, literally nothing else I'd ever experienced. It wasn't clicks, they were like little pops. And I even made a point of saying, well, that's very unusual. How have you done that? You know, what is the engineering behind it? They didn't tell me. It's probably a closely guarded secret, and I don't blame them, because it didn't feel like any Bezel Action. It was beautiful. And with them being just up the road, I might ask at some point if I can just borrow that watch for an afternoon and maybe, yeah, produce some content on it and show you the bezel action that I'm talking about. And I did have a fiddle with some of their other bezel actions, and they were close, but just this one in particular really stood out. But they've got some fantastic watches. I've known how good, you know, their watches have been or are. I've known it for a long time. Alex, blame it on Alex. He's got one and raves about it. Loads of people rave about Christopher Ward watches, and it is a bit naughty of me to leave it this long. But anyway, you know, I've got an open channel of communication now with Christopher Ward, and I would love to be able to, you know, every now and then pop in, you know, sort of pick up a watch, bring it back and just borrow it for an afternoon or a day or so, and review it and produce some content on it. Yeah, why not? With them being just so close, it seems like a fantastic opportunity, doesn't it? But yeah, I mean, lovely people, lovely place. What a place to work, honestly. Surrounded by incredible watches. Anyway, the watch that I asked for, they didn't actually have a what would you call it? An example. You know, they have sample watches that they send out. The one that I wanted was actually in Canada, so they've given me a brand new watch. I borrowed it. Christopher Ward aren't just going to start giving me watches, but yeah, I've borrowed it. It will go back, and I suspect it will then be turned into a proper sample watch. But they've resized it for me. It's got all the plastic on still, so I'm going to head over to the Lightbox now and unpackage it and have a good look at it, because although I was looking at these watches there yesterday, of course I was focused on chatting to the gents that were in there with me. Anyway, just a massive thank you to Patrick for looking after me, and his colleague, of course, whose name I will remember for the next video. So I will review this watch, but yeah, I just want to show you it. And I want to have a look at it, to be honest. So let's head over to the Lightbox and take a look. Right, here we go then, unboxing my very first Christopher Ward. Now inside here we have a Sealander. It is the C63 36mm white dial. Well, it's a rather substantial and weighty box. You know, they're obviously going for a very sort of luxurious feel. Right, what do we have here? This looks rather nice. I guess this is the guarantee card, 60/60. So you've got 60 months of warranty for the movement, and you can return the watch internationally within 60 days. And what do we have in here? Oh, nice. A cleaning cloth. This watch costs £770. I think the packaging is actually punching above its weight. £770. Yeah, it's not a cheap, affordable watch, but it's not exactly ridiculously expensive, is it? And there's the watch. Now, they have resized it for me already. In here, we have some links. So I'll put those to one side. Very cool. Right, let's get the plastic off and have a good look. Right, there we go. All the plastic has been removed. I haven't put any power into the movement yet. Let me just quickly do that. Sealander SW200, so 28,800 beats per hour. Hacks and hand winds. Swiss movement. Right, we can have a good look at this watch. Now, there are some beautifully polished chamfered edges. Really nice side profile. Beautiful polished chamfered edge on that bezel as well, tying it into the case. Their finishing does seem exceptional. I'm looking forward to taking some macro shots actually, and we'll have a good look at the transitions between the brushed surfaces and the polished surfaces, because that's really where quality shows. There's quite a few interesting design cues, isn't there? You've got the trident counterbalance on the second hand, and the hour hand has some interesting contours or cuts onto it. Let me zoom in actually. Right, there we go. Yeah, both hands actually have a sort of brushed section that runs the length of the hands down the center, and then the flanks are polished, aren't they? It's more obvious on the minutes hand, but you can see the tip of the hour hand look is brushed. That's interesting. And the applied indices as well have a mix of brushed and polished finishing. I don't think I've ever seen that before. That's very cool. Display case back look with some specifications. You can see that Sealander SW200 in there. Right, while I'm zoomed in, let's have a look at the loom. It is Blue Loom 321. Yep, looks pretty good. Right, while I'm still zoomed in, I want to show you something I noticed in the showroom. These really cool double-ended quick release spring bars, which, well, they're prevented from falling out by that sort of flap that's held into place with a screw in the center there, look. That's pretty cool. Never ever seen that before. Well, I've taken the whole bracelet off actually to have a good look at this clasp because it has an interesting on-the-fly adjustment system. But I've also just noticed you've obviously got screw pins on the removable links, but they've given you a half link as well. That's pretty good, isn't it? Signed underneath, look. Looks very nicely finished. You've got the Christopher Ward logo on top there, fully brushed. Nice double pushers. Yeah, that was a nice action. There's the Christopher Ward signature underneath, and then yeah, you just push this little sliding button down and you can slide this in and out. Very cool. And here it is then on my roughly average 7¼ inch ish wrist. Yeah, feels very nice. Weight is very well distributed. Fantastic size this, 36mm. There was never going to be any other watch that I was hoping to borrow after seeing they made this watch with a white dial and 36mm in size. I'll run through all the facts, figures, stats and specifications and all the strengths and weaknesses of this watch, as well as showing you some lovely macro shots when I make the full review. Alright guys, as always, massive thank you from me to you for tuning in. I do appreciate it. Take care guys. Look after yourselves. You'll see me again very, very soon.